Hello, Las Vegas, and hello, United States. You are listening to the Johnny Bru Show, brought to you by the Right News Network, and I am your host, John Brookhagen. You know, this is going to be our pilot episode of the Johnny Bru podcast, and I'm really, really excited. And I was going to add some sound effects, some special highlights, and we were going to improve that along the way. But I thought with our premiere episode, why not leave it bare bones? It's just me and you, and this is me telling you where I'm coming from and why you should be listening to the Johnny Bru Show every Saturday. I'm going to start out by reading to you a speech I wrote. I wrote this speech in December as I was about to attend a celebration for some of the conservative candidates that had recently won office. While this speech is a little bit dated, I want to share it with you because it'll tell you exactly where I stand on including recent events. It'll also let you know where my passions lie. And I never got to give this speech, and I wrote it, and I'm dying to give it, so this will give you a little taste of what John Brookhagen brings to the table. Thank you, fellow patriots. Yes, the conservative grand old party is the party of patriots. We are the party that gets vilified for loving God and the Bible. We are mocked for loving the Constitution and the rights afforded to us by not the government, but by God. When I hear someone say we cling to our guns and Bibles, I am prideful. But they know that's not working, so they are stepping up to smears. The other day, a colleague, a teacher, a normal left-leaning liberal posted an AOC quote reinforcing how Trump radicalized a racist army of supporters. It could have been an Obama, or a Clinton, or an Omar, or any of the other darlings of the Democratic Party. But seriously, I was almost brought to tears. This is what your colleagues think of you. 90% of the opposition would label this a Klan rally. We are right now at an event that a third of our country would label as a collection of racists, homophobes, fascists, and whatever indisputable evil exists in this world. Heaven forbid you're here and you're gay, or black, or brown, or a woman. Then you're all of the above and you're a traitor. Pardon my language, but this is, well, you know what this is. I have met most of you within the past year. I've shared stories of patriotism and participated in acts of supporting our Constitution, supporting our president. You are some of the kindest people I have ever met. There is no one I'd rather talk to than Mac Miller. There is no one kinder than Tony Palmer. There is no one working harder than Sarah Carrillo, and there is no one taking more abuse than Katie Williams. We are at a crossroads right now. Whatever happens in the presidency, win or lose, we are at a crossroads. Moderates are coming to the red side because they recognize the radicalism sweeping up the left. We must recognize that conservative policy and supporting the rule of law is not enough anymore. We are in a PR battle, and we are losing. They have the mainstream media, they have Hollywood, they have the internet, they have the schools. They have the most obnoxious blowhards the world has ever seen. They scream racist, and we shrug them off and explain capitalism. They scream sexist, and we explain equality under the law. We need a better message. We need new branding. We are the liberal party, but not enough people know it. We do not judge people by the color of their skin. We do not rate people according to their sexual orientation. We love diversity, and we simply want everyone to have a fair shake. We love the environment, but we don't love sending Paris Climate Accord billions of dollars. We don't judge those with sexual identity differences, but we also do not want men winning women's weightlifting championships. We recognize and embrace our differences and decide who we like and love by content of character. We believe in capitalism, but not crony capitalism or monopolies. We believe in helping the poor with a hand up, not a handout. We believe in dialogue. We believe in compromise. Most importantly, we believe in fixing problems that can be solved. The other side likes to address problems that cannot be accurately measured, so the problems never go away. They have people who devote their life to preserving late-term abortions. They have people who devote their life to reparations for the sins of 200 years ago. They have people and businesses devoted to the spreading of a message saying that people with a certain skin color are irreparably evil to the core. They have people who are devoted to the writings of Karl Marx and follow the communist playbook word for word. And the scariest part is these people are not hiding in a basement. They're not keeping anonymous. They are CNN and MSNBC, and they are all day, they are every day. They are running for office. They call themselves the president and the vice president. Congressmen and women belittling the loss of 9/11. We need to remain calm and collected, but we must snuff out these illegitimate accusations, or rather projections, of racism, sexism, xenophobia, and homophobia. We must ask God for strength when you want to punch someone or stoop to their level of name-calling. We need to educate people against all odds, against the Democrat propaganda machine, and educate people how kind, giving, and open the Republican Party really is. Don't run from Facebook and Twitter. Keep up the fight. Don't give up on your neighbor. Keep showing them we are trying to unite. Stop being afraid to talk about your core values at work. Don't let them silence us. You are not alone. And I prefer to have just one of you at my back than any one of those spineless social justice politically correct warriors. Let's end the Democratic Party in this decade and create a Republican Party that finds solutions that enables the pursuit of happiness for every American citizen. God bless the Grand Old Party, and God bless America. And that's what I was going to share. Unfortunately, the coronavirus canceled that because our wonderful governor, Steve Sisolak, put the kibosh on any gatherings whatsoever. I believe it was the day prior to that party in the middle of December. But what I say still rings true. It may be a 2-month-old speech, but I'm telling you, I wasn't super big into politics, all right? This new liberal agenda has forced my hand to become more educated, to become more involved, and to be more cognizant of the fact that when people say, that our liberty will not be lost by people who don't recognize the wrongs, it'll be lost by people who recognize it and do nothing about it. And no, I don't believe in storming the Capitol. I don't believe in a violent revolution. I do believe in the Second Amendment and our rights to protect ourselves and the right for us to protect ourselves against a tyrannical government. And when I say that, I do believe the government is tyrannical at this moment with 50-odd executive orders in less than the first month. But that's not what I mean by protecting ourselves against a tyrannical government. If they want to collect guns, if they want to say that hate speech is no longer protected under the Constitution, and don't get me wrong, when I say hate speech, I don't support hate speech. I don't like hate speech, but I support hate speech 100%. Because once you say you don't have the right to have hate speech, then what is hate? Where is the line drawn? All speech is welcome here in the United States. I don't care if you're a racist. I don't care if you're Antifa, the KKK, the Proud Boys, BLM, President Trump or President Biden. We all have the right to speak. And we all have the right to share our feelings. And we all have the right to feel the way we want to feel. And racists have the right to be racist. They have the right to speak horrible things. And I have the right to turn and walk the other way, or to turn the TV or the radio off if I think somebody has those characteristics. But I don't have the right to tell you that you can't listen to them. I disagree with a lot of the things I'm hearing. A lot, more and more, every day. And I educate myself. I try, I don't succeed, but I try to listen to as much liberal sources or Democrats. So again, like I said in my speech, I don't think it's a liberal versus conservative thing anymore. I think it's a Democrat versus Republican thing. I believe the liberals are coming to the Republican side, and I think they're going to continue to come. And I think we are the party of liberalism. But nonetheless, my point is, people need to have the right to speak. 500 years ago, they thought the world was flat. There's still people here today who think the world is flat. All right? 500 years ago, we needed to hear about the other side, that the world might not be flat. And in 2021, the people who think the world is flat still have a right. What about aliens? Are you allowed to talk about aliens? Or is that partly false or out of context? What about the coming of Jesus Christ? I don't have any evidence besides my faith that Jesus Christ is coming. Could be today. Could be 10,000 years from now. I don't have any evidence of that. But he is. Am I allowed to say that? Will I be allowed to say that in 5 years? If I can't tell you that I believe that the coronavirus is not a reason to shut down schools because it's not the pandemic that we first thought it was, I could get silenced for my beliefs. And I could use statistical information to prove why I believe that. I have less evidence that Jesus is coming. They have less evidence to prove that Jesus is coming. So when is that going to be not allowed? My opinion is that life begins at conception. Someone else's opinion is life begins, I don't know what the measuring stick is now. Is it 15 minutes after birth? After they double checked with the mother that the mother still wants to have this child? Or does she have a last second change of heart? I don't know. I don't know the details of how a baby could be born and they consider it an abortion. But I digress. This is not about the abortion issue. We will talk about that one day for sure. But my point is, I believe it's at conception. Someone else believes it's at birth, say, leaving the mother. I'm entitled to my belief. You're entitled to your belief. And we need to discuss it. And we need to come up with a policy that is the least offensive, most humane for the entire population of the United States. But am I going to be allowed to say that I believe that life begins at conception? Or will only the other voice, that life begins at birth, be the only voice that future generations hear? Are we not going to be able to have that conversation? You know, I don't know how many of you guys heard this new rapper, Tom McDonald. The more I learn about this guy, the more I like him. And I used to be in rock bands and stuff, and I don't know how many of you guys know what I look like, but I'm a pretty clean-cut, boring guy. I almost look like a newscaster. I can't grow out my hair. I don't look good. I look good with a plain old parted haircut. And, you know, I'm a pretty boring-looking dude. But I was in lots of rock bands, heavy metal bands, and some of my best friends in the whole world look like this guy, Tom McDonald. Maybe not tattoos on their face and a grill, but at the same time, tattoos all over the place, piercings, spacers, you name it, every color hair. I've colored my hair a few different colors, but nonetheless, Tom McDonald looks just like all these guys that I've befriended many, many times before, and I'm still brothers with today, and my point is, he's been coming out with all these conservative rap songs, and he's really, really, really talented individual. I mean, the guy can slay. He could spit lyrics just with the best of them. And his message is so spot on. And every time I think about this abortion issue, I think about his line in his song. And it says, bacteria is life on Mars, but a heartbeat isn't life on Earth. And I mean, I think that just sums up the whole argument. I mean, you talk about science this, science that, science, but then when some derelict-looking dude spits out some rap lyrics and drops 10 words like that, it just makes everything so easy to see. And I think that's a stroke of genius, and I think this guy is really talented, and if you've never heard of him, please check him out. So, also getting back to the speech, speaking about the people that I've met. I mean, we've got such a white supremacist problem that the first thing Joe Biden addressed as president in his inauguration speech was white supremacy. And it's becoming more and more abundantly clear that they're talking about, Trump supporters in general. And what I said in my speech, I mean it. I met so many people over the past 6 months in events that ranged from keeping Nevada open or ending the lockdowns, which we believed were unconstitutional, to supporting our local conservative candidates. And I got to know a lot of great people. And I must have met lowballing 500 people. And I'm telling you, I grew up in the 80s. I was born in 1976. All right, it might not have been Jim Crow, but I know what racism is. I know. I've had friends' parents in the 80s or other friends and stuff like that who were racist. It was very few and far between, but there were racists among us. You want me to put a number on it? I'm a math guy. 5, maybe 10% at the most. I think 10 is a high, but let's call it 10 at the max. 10% of people were racist. And I didn't like it. And I didn't agree with it. And I ignored it. Whatever, I'm not racist. And I don't care. And if you want to be like that, this is not my fight. I was a 10-year-old kid, 15-year-old kid, whatever the case may be. But there wasn't a big racist problem. And now it seems like there's a huge racist problem. 30 years later, like I said, Joe Biden addresses it first thing he does in his inaugural address. And they're referring to us Trumpsters. I met 500 people over the past 6 months. Not a racist in the bunch. I'm telling you, I would know. I know. I can read people. The more you get to know me, I'm a former poker player. I can read people. I can tell when people are lying. It's, I have an innate gift. I'm telling you, I haven't met a racist in the past 6 months, and I've met almost every single conservative in the Las Vegas, Clark County area. The most popular dude at all of the events was Mac Miller. Not that it matters. I'm so upset that I even have to talk about this. All right? I mean, I don't even want, I know the road I'm about to go down. I'm about to talk about the diversity at the events, but I don't want to point out someone because they're black or someone because they're all of these people were wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people. Some of them were boring-ass white dudes. But some of them were Hispanics and blacks and women and trans and everything else under the sun. And nobody cares. We were there under a common goal, conservatism. What is conservatism? We need to, as a whole, narrow our message and make it clear what conservatism is. Because I'll tell you right now, if you talk to 1 out of 10 people, especially on the coasts, they'll tell you conservatism is a hold on to white nationalism. And they couldn't be further from the truth. Conservatism for me, and I hope my listeners can agree and share this message with me. Conservatism for me, domestically, is 2 words: small government. Small government. We need government for foreign policy, which I'm about to get to, but also for infrastructure, to help us in the pursuit to happiness. Not to give us the right to pursue happiness, but to do everything in their power to enable everyone the right to pursue happiness. I love the government socialist programs of building highways, bridges, airports. I love the socialist agenda of having cops all over the place to help you if you're in trouble and to guide the community in times of panic and to be a reassuring force and a member of our community. I support the socialist agenda of having fire trucks go to a house when a house is on fire. I understand government is a necessity. All right, we can't have anarchy. But, and what I don't understand is conservatism is as close as you can get to anarchy. I want small government, no regulation, no laws. All right? You know, I wish we had the utopia of telling people there was no speed limit. But we need a speed limit because someone's going to drive 80 miles an hour, and more than just one someone. And it's going to put others at risk. But, to a minimum, we need as few laws and as few regulations as possible. And then you talk about, all right, you know, well, when you talk about public safety, what is the difference between saying you got to go less than 80 miles an hour and saying that you can't leave your house because we're in the middle of a pandemic? That's a good question. I don't know. That's why I say with the free speech, there needs to be no line. We need to accept the worst kinds of speech, so that way there is no line. All right? Anarchists want no laws whatsoever. Conservatives want minimal government. And I think we need to keep that line at, you know, is this law absolutely necessary? And that's it. Is this regulation absolutely necessary? Does it infringe on people's freedoms? That should be the second question. If you're not sure how necessary a law may be, if the law is going to infringe on someone's rights, we got to figure out a way not to infringe on people's rights. We need a lockdown. You can't tell people not to go to church. We need governmental leaders that we trust, that we care about, and that care about us. And when these leaders tell me, please, don't go to church, I'll listen to them. You don't have to put in a law or a regulation or threaten me with a fine or jail time. All right? If our elected officials were trusted, if our elected officials proven time and time over and over again that they had our best interests in heart, if Steve Sisolak came on the TV tonight and said, listen, there's a pandemic going on, I need you guys to shelter in place for 2 weeks, I would do it. The second he starts telling me that we're going to be taking names or giving fines or punishing those who resist this unconstitutional request, that's when I'm going to be upset. There's nothing wrong with asking people to come together. And we're Americans. We proved that freedom will work. All right? As our freedoms become less and less, for the past 250 years, we became the number one nation, not on the planet, in the history of the world, of the planet, of the universe. In 200 years, we changed the course of human history with this little experiment in freedom. People laughed. They didn't think it would work. And we realized that, no, people will do the right thing. People will do the right thing. All right? And that's another reason why we need religion. I don't care what religion you're part of, but you need to be free to practice your religion. If you're not a Christian, if you're an atheist, you can't be against religion. Nobody is trying to force you. Now, if, a Muslim terrorist tells you have to be a Muslim or I'm going to kill you, yeah, you could take offense to that. But Jews and Christians and most other Muslims, they're not trying to convert you. And you got to understand, this is their moral compass. Our nation was founded on Christian principles. We are not a Christian nation, but we are a nation founded on Christian principles. And our forefathers believed that our Christianity was enough. And that's why we could afford the citizens the freedom. Not even afford them. They made it clear that they weren't giving us the freedom. God gave us freedom. And as long as people had a true north, the majority of the people had a true north, and that would be God, that they could have freedom. People aren't going to go around killing each other. People are genuinely good. When people are left to their own devices, they will help their neighbor. And that's why America not only became the most successful nation in 10,000 years of human history, but they became the most giving nation. We did so well that we were able to share our abundance. And that's at risk right now. All right? In the next segment, we're going to be getting into education. We're going to be getting into the Democrat machine that's trying to change the face of America as we know it. And we're going to, I don't know if any of you guys watched Tucker last night. I've been preparing for this podcast for a few days. And Tucker last night did about 40 minutes on education. Thankfully, I'm not going to be doing the same thing that he did. He was talking a lot about the curriculum, the anti-racist curriculum, and stuff like that. I'm going to be talking more about the content and what's happened over the past 40, 50 years. But it piggybacks right along with what Tucker was saying. We'll hear some clips from Tucker. We'll hear some clips from some other people. And we're really going to get to the heart of education, because those of you who know me knows that's where my heart is. All right, my name is John Brookhagen. I'm reporting to you live from the Johnny Bru Show, brought to you by Right News America. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Johnny Bru Show right here on Right News America. And we are brought to you by that Right News America. I am John Brookhagen. If you'd like to support Right News America, please, the best thing you could do right now is share. Share our podcast, share our Facebook page, share rightnewsamerica.com. Tell your friends about it. We are aiming to be a news source that you can count on. All right, we will try to be impartial, but I'm sure there will be a conservative bend on our stories. But our stories will be factual, and we will only be reporting on things that we have confirmed. You'll also notice on some of our news stories, we will share some things, and we'll tell you if we have or have not confirmed that particular story. That's rightnewsamerica.com or facebook.com/rightnewsamerica. I'm John Brookhagen. So, as I was telling you during the intro, this is our pilot episode. Welcome. Thank you very much for being a part of this. And I'm telling you, I will remember each and every one of you, since there'll only be like 3. And then when there's millions of people listening every day, you will be able to brag that you were one of the first 3 wonderful people to join us on the Johnny Bru Show. Also, I have one of my producers here, Lou. Lou, you want to say hello to everybody?
How you doing, everybody?
All right. Lou is going to be helping me out with some of my research and information gathering, as well as offering a nod and a wink every now and again. Thank you very much, Lou, for joining us. So, as I alluded to in the first part of our program, we are going to be talking about education here in America. And I have been screaming. I mean, there is an actual emergency with the education system here in America. We used to be number one. And ever since we decided to try to start fixing the education system in the 50s and 60s, we have plummeted in every single category. Where we once reigned supreme in every category, we are now mediocre at best in every single category. And it's really, really, really frightening. And the more we try to fix the education system, the more damage we seem to be doing to it. And now, unbeknownst to most parents, the education system is undergoing a complete overhaul. And I'm not just talking about in San Francisco and New York City. I'm talking about across the country, in many red counties, places where Donald Trump won by 25 points. They are also going to an anti-racist curriculum. What does anti-racist curriculum look like? I see stories about second graders bringing home drawings saying Trump should not build a wall. What 7-year-olds knows about a presidential policy, immigration, or building a wall? I mean, I was in support of the wall. I would never tell my child to draw a picture saying, let's build a wall. It's ridiculous. I would tell my kid to draw a picture of mommy and daddy, or a dragon, or a school bus. Not a freaking caricature of our president saying that you're murdering immigrants at the border. This is a serious lesson. And I think it's inappropriate for a parent to do that to their single child. This is teachers across the spectrum, across the country, teaching kids about political policy and Orange Man bad. I mean, it really fires me up. I hear other stories about anti-racism and anti-homophobia and recognizing that you don't have to declare your gender until you feel good about it. And I see stories about 10-year-olds being taken away from their parents, or 12-year-olds being taken away from their parents because the parents would not agree to gender reassignment drugs and or surgery. The world is upside down, and every 2 years it's even more upside down. And I keep wishing that every time we flip upside down, that one time we end up right back up. But all we do is fall deeper and deeper into this rabbit hole of illogical ridiculousness, and it's infuriating. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic. Anyway, my point is, as I said, Tucker, as I'm preparing for my show, did 40 minutes last night on the educational system and the propaganda that's entering it, from everything from the anti-racist agenda to anti-bullying, this, that, the other thing. We are going to get into all the details. But just for some of you who did not see Tucker last night, I'm going to play you a clip from his show.
Oregon's Department of Education is encouraging teachers to register for training that encourages something called ethnomathematics. Ethnomathematics, not making that up. That training teaches that white supremacy manifests itself in the focus on finding the right answer to math problems. Algebra is racist. French Revolution, anyone?
Lou, what do you think about that?
It's very troubling, John.
Do you think math is racist? I know you're a math teacher. Is math racist?
Math is the last refuge from this political inanity that we're talking about here. So it's very kind of heartbreaking to hear this.
And if you're curious what Tucker's guest had to respond, it wasn't quite as insightful as Lou, who never lets you down, but it was good. So let's hear what she had to say. This is Libby Emmons, and she's a senior editor for the Post Millennial.
And the third is this concept of this soft bigotry of lowered expectations that tells people that students of color can't achieve to the given standard, and so those standards need to be changed.
And that's where I come in. I mean, the standards or the minimum expectations that we call for our children has gone so low that I am seriously concerned about our future in technology, in war, in defense, in leading the world. We're not going to be able to do it. I'm telling you right now, for those of you who don't know, my primary occupation is a teacher. I work with kids all day, every day. And I'm lucky enough in my position that I work with kids as young as 5 and as older than 50. I've worked with everyone in every grade, in every subject related to math. And I'm telling you, it's very concerning. And it's not concerning to me when a kid comes in and he doesn't know how to do something. What's concerning to me is the influx of good kids. Kids who do their homework, kids who enjoy coming to do extra math and to work on their education on the side, kids who read when they're told to read. I mean, I'm talking about good kids who try hard. And they don't know anything anymore. They really don't. And these are the good kids, straight A students. I don't understand how an elementary school will let a student go to middle school without knowing their times tables. I think this is the best singular example of the problem with our education system. It grows from the fact that none of these kids have ever dug a hole. I don't know why there were so many damn holes to be dug when I was a kid, but I remember constantly digging holes. I don't know, we were always building a fence, putting up a pole for the dog, or we bought a new mailbox. We were building a walkway. I don't know. I just feel like my dad was making me dig holes every other day, man. And I hated him for it. And I feel like it's made me a better person now. I was forced to memorize my times tables. I had to sit there in a room and memorize my times tables. And it took hours. And then I learned them, and I never had to learn them again because it was done.
And how'd that make you feel when you learned them?
You know, there's nothing, or finishing the hole, digging the hole. Dig a 6-foot hole. I'll tell you right now, that last 3 inches with the hole digger, you can't open the hole digger because it's all the way in the hole, and you're exhausted, and you know you got to make the hole bigger on the top so you can open the hole digger. And you know, the first time I went back and told my dad, yeah, I'm done, and it was only 5'9". Yeah, I wasn't done, and my dad let me know in no uncertain terms. But yeah, these kids don't have the feeling of completing something like digging a hole or memorizing their times tables. It creates a laziness. The hole digging creates a laziness where these kids will not be able to survive a laborious job. How's a kid going to be able to do some roofing for 9 hours so he could make a good living, making $18 an hour, if he can't dig a single hole when he's 10 years old? And the laziness is not just physical. I have a term I use a lot. It's intellectual laziness. It is the fact that kids cannot finish a paragraph. Most kids can't finish a sentence. I'm a math teacher. These kids don't read the first sentence of a word problem, much less the rest of the word problem. Much less reading it 2 or 3 times to ensure they're getting all the information out of the problem, and then they're answering the question that's being asked. 0 attention to detail. 0 dedication to getting a job done well. And as I referenced earlier, the scary part is there's always going to be some idiots, some kids who just refuse to try. The scary part is when you see it in the best of our children. This is the best that this public school system is churning out. These are the straight A students. And you ask them what 6 times 8 is, and they don't know. They're 10 years old, straight A student, and they don't know their times tables. They don't know the definition of basic words, whether it be math or English. You know why? Because they're teaching these kids that Christopher Columbus was having sex with sheep and spreading disease on purpose to the Indians. That's the legacy of Christopher Columbus. The kids tell me what they're teaching them in school. All right? I'm not here to stick up for Christopher Columbus and tell you he was a great person, and I don't care. Christopher Columbus had balls the size of the building I'm in right now. Nobody in the history of this planet has ever had cojones the size of Christopher Columbus. Nobody would go with this guy. You want to open up the prisons and no more jail? Christopher Columbus collected all the criminals because they're the only people who would go with them. Because nobody had balls like Christopher Columbus. That's what Christopher Columbus is celebrated for. He had the biggest damn balls in the whole entire history of the world. It's crazy. It's crazy to fathom getting on a ship made of wood and sailing into an endless sea where no man has ever gone before. You can't fathom that. The only parallel that you can consider when even thinking about speaking Christopher Columbus's name is going into space and hoping that somehow if you keep going straight, you'll come back to Earth. That's how crazy he is. Get in a rocket. I'm going to shoot you out. You're going to go past Mars. You're going to go past anything we've ever seen before. With a bunch of criminals and murderers and rapists. Because they're the only people who are crazy enough to go with you. And the only reason they're crazy enough to go with you is because we said you get life in prison or you could take a trip with this crazy person with big balls. And I don't think half of this stuff or any of it could be or is true. You want to know where Christopher Columbus rumors come from? Christopher Columbus was not liked. Christopher Columbus was the Trump of the late 1400s. Because this was this crazy dude. Crazy ideas. He was a crazy person. I already told you this. And he went to every government. Every single one. Hey, give me a ship. I'm going to sail. And they're all like, you are crazy. And then when he went to the other country governments, the other governments had already talked to one another and said, yo, don't give this crazy man a ship. They all said no. 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 You ever hear that? Most successful people in the world have been told no more than any of you guys have ever even asked. You got to be in it to win it. And Christopher Columbus was in it. Finally, someone said, Spain will give you the ships. Number one, that turned Spain into the world power. That singular decision that they initially passed on. Number two, Christopher Columbus sailed into space, past Mars, past Venus, past your anus. And he found the Caribbean. And he found some nice natives. And they traded. They found some cannibalistic, crazy natives. And they fought. Anything more than that is rumor. The only facts we know about Christopher Columbus is that he had big balls and Spain gave him the boats that led to them being a world power, and that he came across lots of natives. Some were nice and some were mean. The nice ones he treated nicely, the mean ones he treated meanly. Did he have sex with llamas? I don't know. You ever have sex with llamas, Lou?
No.
You see, I don't know. Maybe the fact checkers could get on that for me. Did Lou have sex with llamas? I'd be as convinced about their knowledge of Lou's sex life as I am about their knowledge of Christopher Columbus's. Also, they were crazy times, man. He's in this foreign land. Some are nice, some are mean. You got to be ready. I mean, whatever you got to do to survive, it's survival of the fittest. This isn't, UCLA, where, there's a feelings room or a cry room or a puppy room if the Indians scalp you or cut off your head. All right, this is fight to the death. This is Game of Thrones. And Christopher Columbus was crazy. And even if he was the most despicable human being that ever walked this earth, and I don't think so, Nancy Pelosi did not discover America. I don't think we should have to degrade him. All right? Slave trade was the biggest trade back then. That was not Christopher Columbus's main goal, but he needed to supplement his income, and that was the number one thing. All right, I got a great point about, slavery and everything else, but I'm going to save that for our portion on reparations. We won't be doing that right at this moment. Anyway, so let me get back on track. We're talking about education. Anytime I think about education and Christopher Columbus pops in my head, I got to go off on a diatribe. But you know what? It's done now. Now you guys know where I stand on Christopher Columbus. There's only one thing that matters, right? There's a quiz. What does Christopher Columbus have? Lou?
Courage.
Yes, he has courage. All right, so then, as we continue with the math is racist and the changes to our curriculum, we have unbelievable policies. Just 2 or 3 years ago, I was talking about this with many people, and I'm going to talk about right now with you. In California, a few years ago, they deemed that minority students of color were being suspended at a greater rate than students of white heritage. And they decided there would be no more suspensions. You can no longer suspend a student for looking a teacher in the eye and telling them to go F themselves. If a teacher sends a student to the principal's office and the student turns to the teacher and says, go to hell, we call that willful insubordination. No more. You cannot be suspended. Because children of color were being suspended at a 20% clip when they only made up a 15% clip of the population. Students of color are doing worse at math than students of white or Asian heritage. So now that makes math racist. They are saying math is racist. They are saying math is a construct of the American dream of white supremacism. How dumb are these people? Math is the only true constant we have in this world. It is the only thing that has not changed. Pythagoras and Archimedes, 2,500 years ago, gave us the blueprint to how to use math and do math. All right, these people were Egyptian and Middle Eastern and Greek. America is 250 years old. Math is 2,500 years old. Give me a damn break telling me math is racist. Math is American. Math doesn't give a hoot about America or racism or anything else. I get so upset when I hear this stuff because people parrot it. People believe it. People get brainwashed. Terribly brainwashed with it. And it's disgusting. Science has changed, especially over the past 5 years. Men and women and, never mind. English has changed. We have new books, new vocabulary, new syntax. History is being written as we speak, and it changes all the time. Did I tell you about Christopher Columbus? 30 years ago when I went to school, he was a hero. We named cities and teams and buildings after him. Streets. You don't have to whisper, Lou. But now, Christopher Columbus is the ultimate villain. So history changes, science changes, English changes, dance, art, it all changes. Math is the constant. I teach the same math to geometry students as Euclid did 2,500 years ago. I use his book. It hasn't changed, and it won't change, ever. And if asking for the right answer is racist, I'd rather be racist and use that bridge than be anti-racist and fall. Because I'll tell you right now, these people implementing these changes, these people who are pulling the strings, all the way up to Soros and Zuckerberg and Gates, all the way down to these Democrat Sisolaks and all these people who are all aboard the woke train. I'll tell you right now, as low as Sisolak, as high as Soros, their kids are not learning that Christopher Columbus had sex with llamas. They're not learning that math is racist. They're not having their houses and their buildings built by architects who don't need the exact answer in math. They're not being taught this woke curriculum. I'll tell you what else is not happening. They're not homeschooling or distance learning. Tell you right now, none of these politicians' kids, none of these string pullers' kids are learning in a Zoom call while their mom is frantically trying to figure out why the heck they are talking about arrays when they're talking about multiplication, or not realizing that 341 is 300 plus 40 plus 1, because they didn't explain it to us like that. They just explained it's 341. And then you have entire school boards resigning because they're mocking parents, saying that the parents want their babysitters back. Yes, they do. I'm a teacher. I don't want to be called a babysitter. But guess what? Parents use teachers in schools as babysitters. Newsflash, in case you didn't know. And they rely on that. They rely on that to work, to clean, to care for their families, to have a second of peace so they could collect their thoughts and get back to the 18 hours of being a mom or a dad or making a dinner and a laundry. Listening to the kid talk about bullies and nuance and art projects and Christopher Columbus having sex with llamas. I'm sorry, teachers, you are babysitters. I am. I'm a teacher. I don't want to be a babysitter. So you know what I'm going to do? When I'm babysitting those kids, I'm going to teach them every morsel of everything I ever can. It's going to all be centered around math. But I'm going to teach them to say please and thank you and look me in the eye when I'm talking to you. And thank people. When you go to your friend's house, you thank their mom. You say hello to everybody in the room when you walk into the room. I'm telling you, I love kids. I tell you right now, there's nobody on this green earth that loves kids more than me and that wants to enrich children's lives through education more than me. But boy, these kids, they're scaring me. They won't look you in the eye. They can't have a conversation. They can't do a multiplication. They can't dig a hole. And in 10, 12, 15 short years, they're going to be on the front line should anybody attack. I saw in the paper last week, China is sending their boys to camps to become more masculine, strong, and hungry. While we tell boys that they could take gender fluidity drugs. And that if they don't make the boys' basketball team, they could go try out for the girls' basketball team. All right. This show is going to be centered on education. So I'm going to be talking about it a lot. But I am out of time. We got a break coming up. We will be right back. We're going to be hitting some other topics. Most specifically, I'm going to explain to you why this is the week I broke the ice. And we're going to talk a lot about someone we all have in common, someone we all know and respect, and someone that deserves a proper eulogy, not like this disgusting propaganda machine gave us. I'm John Brookhagen, Right News America. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Johnny Bru Show, brought to you by Right News America. My name is John Brookhagen, coming to you with none of my brain tied behind my back because I am not gifted the way someone else once was, but that one someone certainly is an inspiration. Of course, I'm speaking about the man, Rush Limbaugh. And things that made Rush Limbaugh great are countless. Things that made him not so great, I could probably count them on one or two hands. And it's those 5 moments that Rush himself has regret. I mean, you don't go on the radio 3 hours a day for 33 years and not say something you're going to regret. I've been doing this podcast for an hour and 1 minute. I've said about 5 things I regret, and if I'm ever famous, they're going to use all these things against me. Over 33 years, Rush said about 5, 10 things that he regrets. And isn't it like the news media to just focus on the worst moments of a great man's life? And how does that relate to what we're doing right here, right now? You listening, me watching. I've been talking about doing a podcast. People who know me well, they know I've probably been talking about doing a podcast since before there were podcasts. Those of you who don't know, I've got some very minor broadcasting experience and education. Enough to know that what they're calling journalism today is not journalism. Not even in the smallest fashion. It is the opposite of journalism. It's propaganda. It's what it is. And so the passing of Rush and talking to my good friends, Paul Laramie, who is really the inspiration behind this project, wanting me to do something, some friends, supporters, not supporters, like close friends who know I like to talk and they don't mind listening, said they'd be all for it. They listen to a podcast, and here we are. Episode 1 of the Johnny Bru podcast. I'm going to have signs. I'm going to have lighting. Well, I have lighting. That's a secret, though. I'm going to have sound effects. I'm going to have a bigger production crew. This is the test run. This is the pilot episode. And I want your feedback in order to decide how much of myself I should invest in this. But I love it. I do it for me just as much as I do it for you. So, we're going to start first with the propaganda arm of the Democratic Party. This here is a one arm, ABC News. They have many arms. They're like an octopi or an octopus. But this arm of the Democratic propaganda machine covered this is a pioneer. I was just talking about Christopher Columbus, how he was a pioneer and how we celebrate him not for anything other than being the craziest man on the planet to sail into the abyss. Rush Limbaugh. Media, this is not a new thing. Media was always a Democratic propaganda machine, but never so blatant. They used to hide it a lot better. Not so much anymore. And Rush said, let me give it a shot. He became the most listened to person on the radio ever. Now, I don't want to grandize and pretend that I know everything about Rush, because I don't. I grew up on Howard Stern. I grew up on Mike and the Mad Dog, WFAN. I heard of Rush's legacy, but like I said in the first hour, I've always followed politics, but I've never been in the trenches. I've never inspected it. I've just observed from afar, but attentively from afar. Rush has been all in for 40 years. And this man dedicated his life to sharing the conservative message, for calling out Democratic politicians that went too far, by calling a spade when it came time to say the face value of something, like what's going on right now. You know, when you talk about, with the restrictions that are obviously not based in science. Rush was the first person to say, no, that's not how it is. Because that's what they're telling you on the news. But that doesn't make it true. And he stuck up. He took the torch when Reagan served his 2 terms. And to be honest, he's been holding that torch until 2016. And we're going to hear about that from our 45th president in just 1 second. Trump, like me, wasn't a big Rush guy. But in the past 4 years, both Donald and I have a newfound respect for Rush, and I'm proud to say that I listened to the last Rush Limbaugh podcast on the same day that he released it. I would follow his podcast for the past 2 years, and he was on and off because we all know about his health problems, God bless him. And he fought like a trooper because he loved it. He loved his job, he loved it himself, and he loved to do it for you, the listeners. And so don't think it was totally selfless, and I'm not trying to pretend he was a saint. He did it because he loved it. But we loved listening to him. So it was great. And the man is dying of cancer right in front of our ears. And it was special. It was special to spend that time with him. To spend time with a man who has seen so much, done so much, and he's on death's bed. He knows any day he's going to die. And he's sharing this experience with us. And what was most striking for me was in December. It's the podcast that everybody's playing all the time. Everybody else is doing it, so we're not going to do that clip on the Johnny Bru Show here. But how he talked about how he knew his time was limited and he doesn't know how many more days he's got left in him. I'm guessing he had like 5 more after that day. And he talked about Lou Gehrig and how he thought when he was a child, how Lou Gehrig talked about, I today am the luckiest man on the face of the earth. And Rush believed, you're just saying that because it's the right thing to say. No person believes that you think you're the luckiest man on earth. And yet, 80 years later, there's Rush, a month away from the inevitable death that cancer was going to take from him. And he proclaimed, and I believed every single sentence, syllable, that he thought he was the luckiest man in the world. And that just goes to show you perception, how perception changes. You know, in some instances they say if you're a conservative before 30, you have no heart, and if you're a liberal after 30, you have no brain. You know, you change. You view life differently. You know, and as all this is going on around me, I don't know, some of you who know me know I just lost one of my best friends less than 2 weeks ago. My perception of death is a lot different now than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I used to think I was invincible, and I can't believe I survived through some of the things I survived, including coronavirus. But I know that I look at death different now, and Rush personifies, and I was able to relate to him in some way, shape, or form, and it was special to spend that time with him. But what I wanted to talk about first was the depravity of the Democratic propaganda machine. This is how they cover Rush Limbaugh.
Derided feminists as feminazis and made disparaging comments about AIDS patients and the LGBTQ community. His brief career as an ESPN analyst came to an abrupt end when he said NFL quarterback Donovan McNabb was overrated because he's black.
The media has been very desirous that a black quarterback do well.
And when Barack Obama became a national political figure, Limbaugh was among those promoting the racist myth that Obama had not proved he's an American citizen.
All right, I know it's going to sound good on the podcast. I hope you were able to hear that up there. But the gentleman on ABC is explaining how a man died. A man who was a conservative talk show host. He had a brief stint on ESPN, but got fired because he said that he believes the media was overhyping Donovan McNabb because the media had an interest in a black quarterback succeeding. You know, I think racism is believing that a certain race is inferior or better or worse just because of the fact that it's a racial thing. Rush was saying that the media had a desire for Donovan McNabb to do well, similar to the way they have a desire for Biden to do well. They had a desire for Donovan to do well because it fit a narrative of the rise of the black quarterback. We want to make sure, we present black people in the best possible light. And Rush was saying that was their motivation. Just like their motivation for making Biden look good was so he got elected. That doesn't mean that he thinks less of Donovan McNabb because he's black. That means he's calling the media out for over-pumping or accusing them. I'm not saying Donovan McNabb was a hell of a better quarterback than I'll ever be. And I used to love watching Donovan McNabb play. And I know Donovan McNabb was not Joe Montana. But I also know Donovan McNabb was a better quarterback than Tim Tebow. You know, that's the beautiful thing about athletics and the military and what used to be our country. It's meritorious. It's all about who is best for the job and who is not going to quit. Who's got my back? That's all a soldier wants, and that's all a teammate wants. And that's why you don't see racism in sports, in the military, in meritocracies in general. And that's why I'm so disappointed when I see athletes or generals in the military jumping on this anti-racism bandwagon, because they were the shining example of what anti-racism truly is. Anti-racism is getting rid of racism. I don't understand. Anti-fascism is getting rid of violent protests, calling for anarchy and calling for certain races to be locked up. You know, all these things that contradict themselves with the name calling. Black Lives Matter, but only if you're killed by a cop. You know, it's the antithesis of what they're trying to do. Anti-racism is racism. It's dividing people by an immutable characteristic that they simply can't control. And for Rush Limbaugh to say that the media is being soft on McNabb the same way, and I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. But I'll tell you right now, this media has been soft on Biden because they wanted him to win. You know, they're soft on all kinds of things because Jen Psaki will tell you that Biden nominated a Hindu or a woman. Nominating a woman to the Small Business Administration will not help my small business. And if she's the best person for the job, great. You know, who did she replace? She replaced a woman who was the head of the Small Business Administration under Donald Trump. The sexist, horrible person. Yeah. And so there's more. I mean, there's plenty more. I just picked out two of them just to give you an example. I mean, there's endless plays. This is the incomparable Joy Reid on MSNBC sharing with us her thoughts on Rush Limbaugh.
Rush ultimately got his way. Rush Limbaugh reached millions of listeners via his golden microphone, with his shows airing in small stations out in rural America. Even Fox News couldn't reach, hardening rural white listeners and weaponizing white male grievance. And what I heard was a guy who took white Americans out there in the hinterlands and fed them a narrative of, you're the victim. No, you're the victim. Don't feel like there's any privileges coming to you. You're the victim. The brown people, the black people, the women, the feminazis, they're taking it from you. They're taking things from you. And it got people so hyper and amped up that he then was able to turn that into politics.
It's disgusting. It breaks my heart. The only thing that makes me not want to find her and say, how could you say something like that about such a wonderful person, is Rush himself. Rush explained through all the smears and hatred that he faced. He didn't do it for them. He did it for his supporters. He was on the radio every day for the people that listened to him, not the people who didn't listen to him. And that makes all the sense. Because the thing that makes sense about that is, as I said, I was not knee-deep in politics. I just followed it. And all the time, from 2010 to 2015, I heard how Rush Limbaugh was a racist. I heard Sean Hannity is a racist. Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro, Bill O'Reilly, Laura Ingraham. These are the bottom of the barrel, the most racist people in our country. And they lead by fear-mongering and racism. I always watched CNN. I always thought that, CNN was the worldwide leader in news. Wolf Blitzer, Anderson Cooper. My dad was a staunch conservative, loved Reagan, loved the military. Yeah, he loved Trump. He didn't get to see Trump elected. My dad died right before Trump got elected, but he was there when Trump first announced. And my dad was pretty pumped. And, I just watched CNN, and my dad would always watch Fox, and I didn't know why. I was just used to CNN. So I watched CNN all the time, and when I'd go visit my dad, he'd have Fox News on. I enjoyed the news, but I turned on to CNN so I could watch Wolf or whoever. And I didn't realize how slanted they were. And maybe it's because they weren't that slanted. They were slanted, but they tried to pretend they weren't. And then when Trump came on, I couldn't watch anymore. I couldn't. I was watching in front of my eyes the same guy. I grew up in New York. The same guy that they begged to run for president. When I was a kid, Trump was on Phil Donahue. Please run for president, Mr. Trump. No, I'm happy where I am. If the country is ever really going down the tubes, I might. But otherwise, I don't want to be in politics. Oprah Winfrey. Trump, please run for president. The crowd's going wild. They're finding Trump for president signs under the seats. No. Mr. Trump, then he's on every show. Johnny Carson, Jay Leno, David Letterman, every rap song. He's best friends with Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield. And Jennifer Hudson goes through a trauma, and he's there for her. And he's celebrated by the NAACP, and he's fighting for just equality, and everybody's getting along. He's on WWE. Hollywood loves him. Let's do a show. Let's do The Apprentice. Oh my God, his number one person is some girl. I forget her name, but she was like really famous and was in his administration. And then she left. It wasn't Anastasia, but it's something like that. You know her name? And what's her name? Darn it. I see you guys commenting over there and everything. I can't wait. Pretty soon your comments are going to be right here on the screen, and you can tell me what her name was. Butterfly or something like that. But, and they were tight. I mean, he was, I hate referring to the black and whiteness of it all, but he was a champion of the black people. He was a champion of the white people. He was a New Yorker. He was a cool dude. He was a real estate developer. And then he said, I'm going to run Republican. That's it. That's all it took. The same dude is now the devil. John McCain, he was the devil in 2012. You realize that Democrats don't really hate John McCain that much. But he was the devil in 2012. Mitt Romney, 2008. The devil. Yet, you see, as far as the Democrats are concerned, he's not that bad. Do you remember the news coverage? George Bush, he was the devil. Bushes ain't so bad right to the Democratic Party anymore either, huh? Trump is the devil of all devils. Because he said, I'm going to run Republican. Devil. And ever since then, it's been a propaganda brainwashing operation to make anything and everything Donald Trump the devil. And that's just wrong. This is the moment I will remember Rush Limbaugh by. This is 1 year ago today. President Trump surprising Rush with the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
And Rush, in recognition of all that you have done for our nation, the millions of people a day that you speak to and that you inspire, and all of the incredible work that you have done for charity, I am proud to announce tonight that you will be receiving our country's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
And I'm sure you've seen this video. Oh my God, the look on Rush's face, it's the same look from the Hillary Clinton meme when she starts looking up at the sky like a crazy person, except it elicits quite a different emotion. What a wonderful, wonderful moment for a wonderful man from a wonderful president. While I look at Nancy Pelosi sitting behind Trump, probably sitting there thinking about how cool it's gonna be when she rips that speech in half. That was her big shining moment. And meanwhile, there is real greatness happening all around us. And Rush Limbaugh got the gratitude he deserves from a nation that deserved him. I don't care if it's only 40% of Americans who are staunch conservatives. That's a lot of freaking people. And Rush Limbaugh was a unifying force for freedom. And then, this is Donald Trump after the passing.
He was a unique guy, and he became a friend of mine. You know, I didn't know Rush at all. I had essentially never met Rush. And then when we came down the escalator, he liked my rather controversial speech. I made that speech that was a little bit on the controversial side, and he loved it. And he was, without ever having met him or talked to him or had lunch with him or asked him, he was with me right from the beginning. And he liked what I said, and he agreed with what I said, and he was just a great gentleman, great man. He was there right from the beginning, and it was incredible. And then I guess I called him just to thank him, and we developed just some very good friendship. It was
And that goes back to my point that I never got to because I go off on my tangents. I used to listen to CNN. And then I couldn't take it when I heard them bad-mouthing Trump and realizing that they're actually totally full of you-know-what. So I started listening to the devil station, my dad's station, Fox. I got to know these racist people, Bill O'Reilly, Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, Rush Limbaugh, Ben Shapiro. And I listen to these people every day. Every day. The whole show. And they never said anything racist. They never said anything that would make me want to go hurt somebody. They never said anything that belittled women, people of color, handicapped, gay, nothing. I don't understand. I mean, there's a difference between tolerance and acceptance, and the Republican Party is not tolerant of homosexuals or people with, gender identity issues. they're accepting of them. And it baffles me that the Republicans have this reputation, because I've watched these people that I was told for years and years and years. I was told by all these people were racist, horrible people. And then I spent some time listening to Bill O'Reilly and Ben Shapiro. And these people are not racist. They speak in logic, empirical evidence. They're willing to have a discussion to find solutions that are good for everybody. And the American people need to stop taking the word of mainstream media about who's a racist, what is a racist, and who your friends are. The conservative message is, let's make it so everybody succeeds. I'm John Brookhagen. This is the Right News America Network. All right, we're back with part 4 of the Johnny Bru Show here on Right News America. My name is John Brookhagen. I'm your host, and I got my main man right here, producer Paul. What's going on, Paul?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Glad to be here.
During the first part, we went over, I don't even remember what happened. I introduced myself. We talked about what conservatism is. During hour number 2, we focused a lot on the schools and changes that are going on in the schools, from curriculum to standards to new laws being passed and new curriculum being put in. One thing I didn't mention, maybe you could tell me your opinion on this, Paul, is, recently, Seattle has instituted this new anti-racism campaign, and they also include stuff that's like anti-cop and talking about how any imprisonment of a black man is a civil rights violation, and they have a lot of anti-cop propaganda in there. And the thing that strikes me is that this anti-cop propaganda is relatively new. I mean, it really started in June, like 8 months ago. And it's already in the curriculum in some school districts. And my point is, we've fought for years to make changes or help kids, and it's taken years of litigation, this, that, the other thing. This could be just a passing fad. This isn't like anti-gay rights, where people have been fighting for 40 years for anti-gay rights, and now they're going to introduce it in curriculum as well to make sure we're all inclusive. This is a fad. It seems like they just signed legislation in the Biden administration where they're going to say we're not going to defund the police. I mean, they totally did a 180, and they literally signed 100-0 Senate confirmation of a law saying they are not going to defund police. An absolute slap in the BLM movement that supported the Biden administration. Of course, I'm sure I agree that we shouldn't be defunding the cops, but BLM supported Biden. Their main platform was to fund the police. And then Biden does an about face, but back to the schools. How do they get that written into curriculum so quickly, and why would you put a fad into school-based curriculum in elementary school?
Well, the Democrats, they move really fast, John. They're trying to make sure that they indoctrinate. I can't even say the word. Our children with the beliefs that they have. They want them to grow up having one view. See, that's where we differ in our schools. I'm a big believer of having children be free thinkers and decide if they want to become Democrats, Republicans, Independents, or even be involved in politics.
And it's funny that you say that, because when the Democrats continuously stall and want to work on budgets and everything, all the things come to a standstill. I remember day 1, we were supposed to get stimulus checks from Biden of his presidency. It's now day 30 or whatever day it is, and no action on that whatsoever. But, day 1 we could sign, we're already back in the Paris Climate Accord. I mean, we're already siphoning money right out of our country to help China get more free solar panels and to not have to contribute to the fund that's funding their clean energy, when all they're doing is adding the clean energy to produce and manufacture more. They're not taking away their coal-based carbon-producing energies. They're just saying, oh, cool, windmills. All right, we can do more stuff with that. And they're just taking advantage of it while we foot the bill. You know, are you against the environment?
No, I'm not against the.
You're not anti-environment?
No, I'm not anti.
Oh, okay.
Do you
think the climate is changing?
I mean, I saw in Texas it got kind of cold. It hasn't got that cold in 100 years.
That looks like climate change.
Yeah.
Do you know that Texas was once under ice? We had an ice age.
Yep.
And it melted. And then there was more ice, and then it melted. For millions of years, the temperature of the earth has been fluctuating. We are pretty much right in the middle, a little bit on the cool side, of the average temperature of the earth in history. We're a little bit on the cool. We could use a little warmth, assuming that the average is a good thing. And I'd imagine if the earth has survived this long, if we're at the average temperature of earth, that's probably where we want to be. We're slightly below average. I believe in climate change, 100%. Obviously, the climate changes.
This is global cooling.
You know, speaking of the Ice Age, since we're just sitting here talking, the first three segments we were a little bit structured on our subjects, and now we're just kind of shooting from the hip. When we talk about the Ice Age, it reminds me of one of my favorite classes I took in university. And I like to teach kids this lesson right here. And it's all about why racism is the absolute stupidest thing on the face of the earth. Do you know why we're different colors, Paul?
Because of the melanin in our skin?
True. And do you know why you have less melanin than me? You look a little bit paler than me, and there's plenty of people with more melanin than yours truly as well. Do you know why?
I guess based on where your ancestors were from, the amount of sun they had in that region.
Good. You're exactly right. 10,000 years ago, there was about 10,000 humans on the earth. That's it. Half T-Mobile Arena. That's how many human beings were in the whole world. You know where they lived?
I go out on a limb and say the Middle East.
Close. They lived in Northern Africa, which is a stone's throw from the Middle East. And do you know how much melanin all of the humans had?
No, not exactly.
They had a lot. Yep. There were 10,000 humans, and they were all black. And they were doing their thing. They started to learn how to build civilizations, how to farm, so they didn't have to always travel in a circle in Northern Africa. They learned how to fish and build boats and travel. And as they evolved, they traveled. Some traveled northwest over into Europe. Some traveled northeast as far as Asia. And some traveled a little northeast like India. And some of them stayed home. And then a crazy thing happened. Al Gore took one too many trips on his private jet, and it caused climate change. And we had an ice age 10,000 years ago. And this ice age covered half the world in ice. You think being locked down for coronavirus is bad? It was worse. I mean, they were shut in. No power. I think it's cold in Texas by the ice age.
Yeah.
And all those people up in Europe, they were the most north. They were iced. So they hid in caves because they could get warmth. The people in China and Asia, they were not so bad. There wasn't so much wind. So they were able to have like igloos, like Eskimos. And they did a lot of ice fishing. And then there were some people in India who they were so far south. See, India is super hot now, but in the Ice Age, they had 4 seasons. It was kind of like New York. They had a winter and a summer and a fall. And in Africa, it was still hot. Still sun. So guess what happened to the people in Africa? They remained full of melanin.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah. The people in India with the Four Seasons, they lost a little melanin, but they were still pretty dark.
Yeah.
Not Africa dark, but they were India dark. The people in Asia, it was crazy. For those 200 years of the Ice Age, 2000, pardon me, they did a lot of ice fishing.
I bet.
Yeah, and when it was so sunny, and they were on this never-ending sheet of ice, the sun would reflect off the ice. So, God, which is Darwinism, you can believe in Darwinism and believe in God, God gave these Asians an extra little bit of fat under their eyes. And made them look slanty-eyed. Because they were protected from the reflection of the sun and the ice.
Right.
But otherwise, they were in caves, so they lost a lot of melanin. They only went out to ice fish. And, those people who went to Europe, they went in the cave, and they're like these people who are scared of coronavirus. If they're over 65 with a pre-existing condition, God bless them, they should be scared. If they're 22 years old and in good health and they're hiding in their bedroom now for 10 months, God bless them too. And but those people who did not like the cold, they hid in a cave for 2,000 years. Guess what happened to them?
They probably lost a lot of melanin.
They lost a lot of melanin. Yeah.
Almost.
Yep. And those lack of melanin SOBs hiding in a cave, like those little people hiding in their bedrooms afraid of coronavirus. They were afraid of the ice. Those are your ancestors, Paul. Those are my ancestors, Now, my question is this. We both live in Vegas. We have similar melanin content. If I move to Hawaii and I turn purple, because that's what happens when you move to Hawaii, would we still be cool?
Yeah.
Do you think the people who left Africa and lived in a cave hated the ancestors that were now in Africa? No. Do you think that the fact that they're a different color now, does it make them a different race, or are they still a human race?
No, it's still a human race. Definitely, racism is definitely taught.
Yeah, it's a learned thing.
Yeah.
It's a learned thing. And to think there's white supremacy is ridiculous because we are all black. We all come from black people. Yeah. We hid in a cave. That's the only thing that's different, is that 8,000 years ago, we emerged from caves and our other ancestors stayed in Africa and now they're still black. Some people ice fished and they got slanty eyes. Some people went to India and they got a nice tan. They just look nice. Everybody's trying to be that, right? The black people are trying to be lighter. The white people are trying to be darker. And they all want to be like the Indians.
Yeah.
And I mean Indians. Yeah. All right. Yeah, so there's my tangent on it. That's how I truly feel about racism. It's the most ridiculous social construct. And I believe personally that it should be taking off of all federal forms, job applications, everything. It should just come off. I believe the color of your skin should be treated like the color of your hair. Either come up with a scale of 1 to 10. I guess I'm a 3, right? You're a 2. There's some 1s out there. And there's some 10s out there, And, the darker you are, you're a 10. The lighter you are, you're a 1. Or if you want to call it, 4 different things, we could just call it that. But that's it. Only to describe people. Who robbed you? Did he have dark skin or light skin? And dark hair or blonde hair? Because we need to know what it looks like. Yeah. That's it. Was he tall or short? Was he black or white?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only thing that black or white should have to do with anything, is to describe something. But who am I? I'm just the host of this podcast with Paul Laramie on the Right News Network. So, coronavirus has been going on. I have a clip here, more for amusement. I understand that Joe Biden isn't trying to evilly send us subliminal messages. He's just not all there.
Hey, Mike, you never know.
You never know, but I'm thinking he's just kind of a dopey grandpa that, says a little fun things. Let's listen to this quote he had just the other day during a town hall and referencing the job his predecessor had done.
The biggest thing, though, is you remember when you and I I shouldn't say it that way as you remember, but when you and I talked last, we talked about it's one thing to have the vaccine, which we didn't have when we came into office, but a vaccinator. How do you get the vaccine into someone's arm? So you need the paraffin, you need the needle, you need the mechanisms to be able to get it in. You have to have people who can inject it in people.
That's been one of the problems, just getting enough people.
Yes, now we have made significant strides increasing the number of vaccinators.
All right. So, the first thing I want to know is, it's been all over the internet. We all know that the vaccine was here before Biden got in office. Love him, hate him, however he got it done, Operation Warp Speed, was either an incredible political achievement by Donald Trump, or it could have been a big conspiracy for the Great Reset. And they already had a vaccine, so they wanted to have a virus, so that way they could have a vaccine, so that way they could give you nanotechnology, so that way we all become a data point, and the government doesn't have to go through Google to get your information. They could just get it themselves. But, I doubt that's what's happening. What I'm thinking is happening is, Trump did a great job and got a vaccine. 8 months compared to 5 years. That's amazing. And Biden's talking about we need people to put it in their arms. I remember Trump saying repeatedly in June, July, and August that not only is Operation Warp Speed concentrating on getting a vaccine safely and quickly and as many as possible in as short a period of time and paying for it in advance so that way we're already guided. Biden does not have to buy any of these vaccines. He keeps saying, I'm ordering more. Baloney. Trump already paid for as many vaccines as they could possibly produce, and that's that. But Operation Warp Speed also included distribution plans, utilizing the military to dispense the vaccine to the different states, and then having the National Guard in place to dispense the vaccines from the state headquarters to the people who are going to be distributing the vaccine. That's number one. This plan was already in place. And that's why you see conservative states vaccinating so much more quickly than Democrat-run states. I'm sorry, but it is political. It certainly is political. They're fighting in New York over whether prisoners or teachers should get the vaccine. In Florida, they're saying if you're over 75, get your butt down to the vaccinator. That's why Florida is getting more people vaccinated. Then Florida says, all right, next, let's go. In New York, they're too worried about offending somebody. Who gets the vaccine? If we give it to black people first, it's because we think they're guinea pigs. And if we give it to white people first, it's because of white privilege. You can't have it every which way. You can't change your stance depending on the day and which way the wind is blowing. And that's what I think people hate most about conservatives. We've been behind the same message forever. Freedom, equality of opportunity, small government, low taxes, less regulation, freedom, Freedom, freedom. That's all we want. And that's the opposite of what they want. It baffles me that not everybody's conservative. All conservatives want is success for everybody, equal opportunity for everybody, allowing everybody to work hard and do something, or having the freedom to not work hard and not do something. That's what freedom is. Freedom is the ability to leave your house because you're not scared of a virus, or staying home because you think it's dangerous. We all just want freedom. I don't understand what the argument against freedom is. What is the argument against freedom? The system has not been against people of color since the 60s. All right, the Civil Rights Act ended all that. Of course, we had to work to catch up, and only time can do that. But now, what's happening today is the opposite. We are in unconstitutional times. We are being judged by the color of our skin. People of certain creeds and races are getting benefits. All right? This is the America we're living in. I'm a small business owner. Small business is the American dream. We have an administration that this is their small business policy. This is Psaki speaking about what the president is doing for my small business. My small business. Me. John Brookhagen. You want to know? I don't know why it matters. I'll tell you. I am 50% German and white. I am 25% Asian, Japanese. And I am 25% I don't know. All right? The I don't know is because they were adopted. The 25% from Japan is my grandmother from Japan. She married the drunken Navy American soldier, the one that was adopted. And he took her home from Japan and married her. And then I'm 50% German, not Nazi German. My grandmother and grandfather fled Nazi Germany in the 1930s because they saw the writing on the wall, just like I see the writing on the wall right now. They fled Nazi Germany and came to America for a better life. So, all of my family has originated as immigrants, resulting in some way, shape, or form from World War II. So none of my family has ever been in America during slavery or owned slaves. I don't know what happened in Germany or Japan. I don't know. And I'm sorry. I apologize if any of my ancestors have ever owned slaves. But that's my that's my background. That's my cultural background. You want to know what color I am? I'm red, white, and blue. I'm American. Born in New York, residing in Las Vegas, Nevada. Proud citizen of the United States of America, where the government recognizes my God-given liberty. And that's what I'm proud of. That's what I'm proud of. But anyway, everybody wants to know, what race you are, including the answer to the question, what is the current administration doing for my small business?
What is President Biden doing for my small business? First and foremost, he nominated a woman to lead the Small Business Administration who formerly worked there. Second thing is he signed an executive order to make it easier for minority-owned small businesses to get access to the funding.
There was a two-part answer. Did you hear it? Do you know what Joe Biden did for me? Small business owner in Las Vegas, Nevada. He nominated a woman to replace another woman on the Small Business Administration. I don't understand. Number one, if you nominated the best person for the job, hooray. We had to hire someone. Somebody has to be in charge of the Small Business Administration. It's a woman. Oh, okay, I don't understand what her point was. I mean, I think it was Linda McMahon for the past 4 years was the in charge of the Small Business Administration. So, I mean, okay. Number 2, he's opened up a path for minority-owned small businesses to access the funding needed. Why is the word? What is a minority? I don't understand what a minority is. Is that based on the color of your skin? Because if that's based on the color of your skin, that is 100% against the Civil Rights Act. You cannot give somebody an advantage or disadvantage based on the color of their skin, nor their sex. I don't understand. In one day, they're telling me that gender is fluid. In the next day, they're telling me that there's special grants for women-owned businesses. I mean, do I just press female when I'm filling out that? Because when I'm doing that one, I want to identify as a woman. And then when it's just regular life, I can identify as a man. Is that how fluid gender is? How fluid is it? I don't, I don't know. And why are we making special considerations for minorities-owned small businesses? I just feel like the most obvious way to decipher these things is replace the word black with white or the word woman with man. If there's any modicum of offense that could be derived from either one of those flip-flopping, then it's wrong. What if they said that they were going to make sure that white-owned businesses had access to funding? Or that, they wanted to make sure that businesses owned by a man could find the help that they needed. I mean, I don't advocate, I'm a white man, kinda. I'm not advocating for that whatsoever. We all need help. We're all up against it. And I got enough going on in my life that I don't need to worry about the color of somebody else's skin. And I don't want to watch every word I say to make sure I'm not, I don't know when it's respecting a culture and paying homage to it or when it's cultural appropriation. I don't know. Some people tell you if you listen to rap music, you're stealing the black culture. Or if you wear your clothes a certain way. Or if you do your hair a certain way. And then at the same time, and I don't care about this again, but then a black girl dyes her hair blonde, and that's okay, which I agree that's okay. But why is it okay for a black girl to color her hair blonde and not for a white girl to want dreads? I don't know. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the premiere episode of this program. If you've listened to all 2 hours, I want you to leave the word pupper in the comments. The first 5 people who leave the word puffer in the comments, I'm going to consider you my first 5 fans of this new venture. And I'm really excited. I don't know the answers. I got a lot of great ideas. I'm a teacher and I'm good at explaining things. So I hope I'm able to put out the pieces for you to decide what you think is and should be and what shouldn't be. I'm passionate. I love this country. I love everybody. I love liberals. I just love everybody. I want everybody to be all right. I want people to smile and wave to me when they see me walking up the block. I want to hold doors open for women. I want to nod at a dude when I walk by him at a gas station. All right? I just want everybody to be all right, man. I don't want there to be this division. I don't want there to be separated by, you know what I want? I want separation by favorite team. All right? The most hate I had in my life in the 90s was if you were a Red Sox fan. And you know what? Being a Yankee versus Red Sox fan meant make fun of each other, yell at each other, at the end of the day, give each other a hug and say, I'll catch you next time. I mean, that's... Let's live this life together, guys. We need to save the Republic so we can preserve this freedom, preserve this way of life, and we need to, so that way we can go back to making fun of each other and loving each other and being a unit and having one unified goal and one unified love for this great country. All right. My name is John Brookhagen. I'm the host of the Johnny Bru podcast right here on Right News America. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm going to get the production value up, and we're going to be seeing you on Saturday.